The funny thing about bullies who lose quietly is that they almost always try one last move. And sure enough, 2 weeks after the meeting, just when life had started to feel normal again, the HOA sent out a community-wide policy update. Email, dressed up like progress but reeking of desperation, talking about inclusivity while simultaneously proposing new rules that would give them broader enforcement powers, and I remember reading it on my phone while my boyfriend leaned against the counter. Arms crossed, skinny frame, relaxed in that way that meant he already saw the trap, and he just said, "They're trying to reset the board," which is when we realized this wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about ending the cycle, because even if we stayed, someone else would be next, someone quieter, someone without neighbors willing to speak up. And that night, we went door to door, not aggressively, not confrontationally, just honestly, explaining what the new rules actually meant, how they could be used against anyone, how power never stops with one target. And the response was something I'll never forget. Because people didn't just listen, they volunteered, they asked how they could help, they shared their own stories of fines, threats, intimidation, things they'd swallowed for years because they thought that was just how HOAs work, and suddenly, the narrative shifted from those two guys had an issue to we all have a problem, and the momentum was unstoppable. With residents calling for a board vote, lawyers offering pro bono advice, and one older couple who'd barely spoken to us before bringing over coffee and quietly saying, "We're sorry we didn't say anything sooner." And when the special election finally happened, the room was packed in a way I'd never seen before, standing room only, people sweating, arguing, clapping, interrupting, and for the first time the HOA president looked small, not because she was being attacked, but because the audience she relied on had disappeared, replaced by neighbors who knew their rights. And when the votes were counted, she and 2 of her allies were removed from the board entirely, not with drama, not with shouting, but with a clean, procedural finality that felt heavier than any argument. And walking out afterward, my boyfriend squeezed my hand and laughed softly. That relieved, almost disbelieving laugh, and said, "They tried to remove us," and I answered, "and ended up removing themselves." And life after that didn't turn into some perfect rainbow utopia, but it became fair, quieter, human, with waved hellos instead of side eyes, with rules enforced evenly or not at all, with our relationship no longer treated like a disruption, but just another story on the street. And sometimes I catch people looking at us not with judgment, but with something closer to respect, and I realized this was never really about being gay. It was about visibility, about refusing to shrink to make other people comfortable, about understanding that neighborhoods aren't built by uniformity. They rebuilt by people choosing to stand next to each other when it's easier to stay silent. And if there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's that the moment you stop asking whether you belong and start acting like you do, the people who want to erase you lose their grip. Because power only works when everyone pretends it's permanent, and ours disappeared the second we stopped playing along.